My only chance to win this game is fishing for the boost. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Ox here with another video. If you're new to the channel, we do upload Pokemon Go content mostly related to PvP, so please consider subscribing to the channel if that is of interest to you. And if you're a returning subscriber like EddMarAng, thank you for the support. In today's video, we're taking a look at some more Open Ultra League for Season 7, this time with a new team. If you watched my videos from last season, you saw that there was an Escavalier team, which was actually featured on Zionic's channel, so big shout out to him. Because of the introduction of Talonflame, that team pretty much becomes unplayable, because if you run into Talonflame in the lead, it's pretty much a guaranteed loss. I did not want to give up on Escavalier yet, so what I did was I put Lapras in the lead position, has a much better match against Talonflame, and then Escavalier still in the back, with Giratina operating as a safe swap for the most part, but you may have noticed there is actually Ancient Power on the Giratina. Having run Ancient Power for a couple of sets, I personally don't see any advantage to running it over Shadow Sneak. The matchups where it's going to perform better is pretty much Articuno, Togekiss, or Talonflame. Even against the Pokemon like Lapras, Dragon Claw is more energy efficient, so Ancient Power doesn't seem like a great move at the moment. However, if you do get the boost, Giratina becomes absolutely broken and unbeatable. I was debating between Obstagoon or Escavalier for the backline on this team. I ended up going with Escavalier because it has a bit better of a match against the Charmers minus Togekiss, and it has a better match against Cresselia overall. It also doesn't take as much damage from the Superpower or Focus Blast, so I feel like Escavalier just fits better onto this team. So overall, I have gone positive with every set I've done so far with this team, so I have more battles if you guys want to see them. If you guys enjoy this type of content, please smash that like button, it really helps the channel grow. Leave a comment in the comment section down below. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and without any further ado, let's jump into the first battle right now. Alright, so jumping into the first battle here, going up against Olaido 18. We are leading Lapras here. Like I said in the intro, it's pretty much impossible to run Articuno in the lead with the Escavalier in the back, because you're going to lose in a situation like this with Talonflame in the lead. So having Lapras here is a lot better. Opponent is going to swap onto Umbreon, so I'm going to bring in the Escavalier here. Escavalier is a very positive match against Umbreon, but in the XL version, Umbreon does still chunk away quite a bit. In this particular situation, I decided to go for the Mega Horn. My reasoning here was that I expected the opponent to let this go down and then come in with the Talonflame and actually just farm down the Escavalier, because Escavalier really has zero threat to Talonflame. So I think that's the correct play on the opponent's part here. Just let the Escavalier win this matchup, come into Talonflame, farm down completely, have a bunch of energy. So I'm actually really happy to see the opponent choosing to burn their shields here. And I actually put myself in a position where I am going to lose switch advantage if they choose to burn both shields. But I at least know that I can come in with Lapras, and I have two counters for the Talonflame anyways in the back. So I'm feeling okay here with the shield advantage. This Surf will not KO, so that's going to allow me to get 2 extra Ice Shards here after this Umbreon throws the Foul Play, which should get me close to another Surf here. So they probably won't come in with the Talonflame right now, and we get to see the third Pokemon, which fortunately for us is an Alolan Muck, so it's really nice to be able to keep this away from our Giratina Altered form. And you can see right here, basically my play at this point is just to get this Muck as low as possible. Don't want to shield anything at this point, and I'm expecting the opponent to probably swap out to the Talonflame at some point after I throw energy with the Lapras. So in order to prevent myself from getting caught off guard, I have the button ready to click out. I switch out into Giratina there, as you see, and the Talonflame comes back in. Now they can't really go for Brave Bird here, because if they do, they're pretty much going to lower their defense to the point where this Ancient Power is going to knock them out. Granted, they probably don't expect Ancient Power, but Dragon Claw would still hurt a lot. So really tough spot there for the Talonflame. The opponent comes back in with the Muck. They're going to back out. We're off to a 1-0 start here. Let's jump to match number 2 against jspectoaster. And basically the idea with this team is I like to swap out into my Giratina Altered, hoping they bring something like a Togekiss or an Articuno and then hit it with Ancient Power, but it's still kind of a losing matchup. So you can see right here we had a horrible lead. I swap out into my Escavalier, the opponent comes in with Shadow Machamp. So this is looking pretty bad right now, but when they let this go through here, I realize at this point if I invest my shield right here, the counter already went through, I'm going to be able to take switch. So I'm definitely investing the shield right here, definitely worth it to take switch, keep the Lapras away from the Ampharos, and we see Clefable come in. So I'm going to hit it with hopefully 2 drill runs here. Unfortunately that charm did come through, so I should get knocked out after this drill run. and that means I'm not going to get to the second one, which is a bit unfortunate, but we did get one shield. Now I can at least align the Giratina Altered form onto the Ampharos and have my Lapras onto this Clefable, which is what we want. If I lost switch advantage against that Machamp in the secondary matchup, we'd be in a really tough spot with Lapras versus Ampharos, Giratina versus Clefable. So Psychic comes through here, I do shield this up, and the opponent swaps onto Ampharos. I'm going to bring in the Giratina to catch this move, so we did make this switch during the Volt Switch animation, which gave us some time, catching a Thunder Punch, which is really nice. We have no shield, so Dragon Pulse is going to hurt if they do have that move, and I'm just going to spam the Dragon Claws at this point. Now this is the thing, if they don't have Dragon Pulse, this game's over. If they do have Dragon Pulse, it gets a little bit dicey, and you can see they do. So what I'm going to do is actually overfarm a little bit before throwing the Dragon Claw. They actually throw Thunder Punch, which is not going to knock me out, and this will allow me to actually get to back-to-back Dragon Claws. So if I was the opponent, I would definitely let this go through right here, but they decide to shield, and that allows me to get to the second Dragon Claw, which is going to knock out the Ampharos. And now the Clefable is going to come in. I'm going to swap out immediately into Lapras to prevent this Clefable from getting any free energy on the Giratina farm down, and Surf is just about enough to knock out, not quite, but one extra Ice Shard is going to take out the Clefable, and we win that game. Total BS 17 here in the third match. Off to a 2-0 start so far, really enjoying this team. Got Lapras into Gyarados. This is a really nice lead for both Articuno and for Lapras, so you like to see it. Opponent swaps out to Swampert. I don't have a great answer for this, so I'm actually going to throw a Surf here just to make this matchup a bit easier for my Giratina. And now that they let that go through, I'm going to try and catch the Hydro Cannon onto the Giratina. Unfortunately, the opponent did not throw, so now I'm going to be forced to burn a shield here. Almost guaranteed to be going for Earthquake in this situation. So I'm going to spam the Dragon Claw right here. And I believe because they just threw the Earthquake, I should be able to farm now before they get to another one, which is really huge for us. And they come back in with Gyarados. Now this is a situation where having Ancient Power isn't too bad. I mean, Dragon Claw I think is still more energy efficient than Ancient Power in this situation, which is kind of crazy when you think about it, since Ancient Power is doing super effective damage. But after that nerf it took a couple of seasons back, Ancient Power pretty much is a useless move aside from fishing for the boost. So we are going to get off one more here. I actually wouldn't like to get the boost at this point because that would give the Gyarados more farm. But we do get the shield, which is really nice. And now I'm going to come back in with the Lapras right here. Not really to be afraid of anything the Gyarados is going to throw here, so I'm going to let it go through. And the Crunch, you can see it's not really doing anything. I'm going to look to throw the Surf before they get to another move, just preserve some health on this Lapras in case the last Pokemon is weak to it. And it happens to be an Escavalier. So with a shield apiece, I'm going to throw a Surf here before swapping onto my Escavalier. And that should basically put this matchup in a situation where I will be able to farm down with Ice Shard. At this point, I just want to shield here and get this Escavalier low enough to the point where my Lapras could come in, farm down with Ice Shard. So you can make the argument that I don't even have to throw the Drill Run here. I could just go straight counter. But I'm just going to get the shield anyways. It's very unlikely my Lapras would get to a Surf regardless. But in this situation, it doesn't really matter. You can see if I didn't throw the Drill Run, I would have probably got that extra counter, which may have knocked out the Escavalier, but it's at the point now where it doesn't have back-to-back. One Ice Shard is enough, and we take that game off to a 3-0 start here so far, testing out this new team. We've got BrenzoAlexandre here in the next matchup. And we're going to be in Lapras once again into Empoleon. This is a horrible lead, never like to see it. And like I've said in the past, Empoleon usually means Togekiss Giratina, and here comes the Togekiss. So I'm going to go for the Ancient Power here. Was debating building up for 2, but really no point. Want to get the boost as soon as possible. And no shield there, so I'm going to build up for a second one right here. This actually isn't going to knock out the Togekiss, however it's going to put it in a very tricky spot where it can't really throw energy, because if I do shield I'm going to take switch. So we actually simultaneously KO there instead, and now it's a guessing game. I know it's Empoleon or Giratina. I'm going to come with the Escavalier hoping it's Empoleon, and we get that right. So now I know that I have Lapras onto Giratina in the back. I'm going to shield this up right here, and then not going to throw the move, expect them to swap out, which they do, so I save that energy coming with Lapras here. And this is where I start making mistakes in this particular matchup, because this should be an easy win. We have perfect alignment. The opponent's even throwing Shadow Sneak instead of Dragon Claw. I decide to go for Surf, totally expecting a shield here, but they don't, which really doesn't make much sense, because if I took this off Ice Beam, the game is basically over. And I just keep going Surf because I assume they're going to have to shield at some point, right? And they're not throwing their energy, so now I know they're going to shield because they have so much energy at this point, and probably swap out with that energy stored. I come in with the Escavalier. This is going to get the shield from the Empoleon, and now it gets a bit tricky because I shouldn't have clicked here. This is another mistake. I should not have hit the drill run because I'm going to lose the CMP there with the waterfall finishing first. And now, instead of farming down here, I have to throw energy. I decided not to undercharge here because I didn't want to take that waterfall damage, thinking my Escavalier had enough health to actually knock out this Giratina, because Dragon Claw I don't think will KO from this range, so they're still gonna have the Dragon Breath. The problem is if they get enough for 2, I just need 1 Ice Shard to go through here. Didn't get it that time. If they have 2 Dragon Claws ready, I'm actually going to end up losing this match. There's the first one. I get the Ice Shard through, but if this Dragon Claw is enough to KO, I'm going to lose. And honestly, I just played this game so poorly. Definitely threw that game. We lost the lead very hard and still put ourselves in a position to win the game, which is awesome, but throwing that game the way we did was really unfortunate. So we see another Talonflame here. Talonflame is quite popular so far this season. Lapras is a nice lead for it. And the opponent's going to throw a move right away. Usually they're not going to go Brave Bird, so I tend not to shield the first one. Is a Flame Charge. He's still adding up with these Incinerates. Building up for 2 Surfs here. Definitely going to get a shield, I would imagine, from this Talonflame. And we have a second one ready, but we are going to lose CMP tie. We should be able to force the final shield here though. So I do shield up this second one, and the Surf's going to come through on the CMP. And the Talonflame does shield that up. So we're definitely going to win this in the 2 shields now, in case of whether or not they want to stay in. They swap out to Swampert. I'm going to bank that Surf and come in with my Giratina here. So this is a bit of a tricky spot because 2 Earthquakes of course will knock out the Giratina, and we will lose this in the 0 shields. I do have 1 shield, but I kind of want to save that instead. So Swampert here, I'm just hoping I could somehow win this in the 1 shield. This looks like it's going to be a Hydro Cannon, so that's really good for me because it's not going to KO. I don't have to burn the shield there, and I throw the Dragon Claw here. Question is, can I get to the second one before they get to the next Hydro Cannon? I actually do, but I chose not to throw it in case I lost CMP, and went for the safe play instead, which is shielding here and then farming down. But unfortunately, it was CMP I clicked anyways, so I hit no bubbles, which will allow me to get 1 more Shadow Claw through, and we'll see what they come in with. And it is, in fact, a Cresselia. So Cresselia actually is the one matchup where having Ancient Power and Dragon Claw really is bad for Giratina, because you need the Shadow Sneak to win this matchup in even shields. Unfortunately, with Ancient Power Dragon Claw, you could still win, but you have to do like 2 versus 1 shield or 1 versus 0. It's a very tricky spot. We do have a Escavalier in the back though for this Cresselia, which is really good. That's why I kind of prefer having something like Escavalier in the back as opposed to Obstagoon, just has a better matchup. And I was anticipating the swap on the Talonflame, so you have to be aware of that. Had my hand ready on the switch button there. Didn't want to take any damage from this Talonflame, because if this Talonflame touches Escavalier, it's game over right here. Need to keep that Escavalier alive for the Cresselia, which we do here. Comes back in. Gonna throw the Mega Horn. Nothing the Cresselia is going to be able to throw at us will knock us out, and I should be able to farm down here and win this game. So first set, we're gonna end up going 4-1 in this set. Definitely could have went 5-0 if I didn't throw that game. However, for this being the first time ever running this specific team comp, I was pretty happy with the results, and it looked like it had some potential. On top of that, we do also jump up to rank 19 and get our Elite Charge TM as well. So jumping into the second set here, we are running the same team. We got Goose033 in the first matchup. You could tell by the pose and the clothing that this is a player who has hit Legend on multiple occasions. We got Articuno leading to Lapras. You love to see it right here. And typically when they stay in, they're either going to go for, they go for anything. They go for Hurricane, they go for Ancient Power. I decided to throw the Surf there immediately to get off damage before I'm actually debuffed. So I wanted to get off full damage. It's an Ancient Power. No boost comes through, so I expect them to probably swap out. Now, depending on what they have, actually happens to be a Lapras, so this could potentially be the double Ice line, and I have quite the counter for the Lapras. I know that we could win this in the 0 shields, however, it gets a little bit tricky if the Lapras decides to start shielding. So I decided to burn my own shield instead and go for the Mega Horn here, which will actually allow me to farm down after with the counter damage. So I'll have to take a Surf here, but we should be able to farm down before it gets to the next move. And then I would expect, if it is double Ice for Giratina, it's coming and farming down, which I did not want. Thankfully though, they do come in with the Articuno instead, which is great for me because this avoids getting farmed down by the Giratina, giving it a bunch of energy, which is definitely not what I want to see. And you can see the Articuno is of course going to farm me down, but I'll just come in with the Lapras, soak this what's potentially going to be an Icy Wind because I'm sure they want to debuff the Lapras for the Giratina match. And at that point, we are down a shield, but Ice Beam is still going to do a lot of damage here. So I expect the Giratina to probably shield at some point. They do shield the first one. Now I'm actually going to build up for another one before swapping onto Giratina because I'll either get the Ice Beam damage through or I'll get the second shield. Either one is going to put my Giratina in a solid position for this particular matchup. So just going for the Icy Beam again, even though it is debuffed, still going to do a lot here as you could see. Swap out into Giratina now, and we have quite an HP advantage, so we should be fine here. The main thing that you have to be concerned about is the potential sack swap onto the Articuno. So usually the way I like to do this is, because I still have a shield, I'm going to get their final one here. I know that they can't really threaten me with Shadow Claw farm down, so I'm not going to throw here knowing that if they did throw a move, I could shield it anyways with the Giratina. So no real point to throw there, just keep pressing the Shadow Claw, and the Articuno comes in, doesn't catch the sack, Giratina comes back, we win that game. We're off to a 1-0 start. Shout out to that guy for running the double ice line. EddMarAng here in the next matchup, leading Lapras into a Poliwrath. So this is a pretty awful lead, and you kind of have to come in Giratina because Escavalier doesn't really have a good matchup. I guess coming in Escavalier kind of makes sense because Giratina is really the only counter, and you don't necessarily want to bring your only counter for Poliwrath right away. But fortunately for me, it looks like the opponent's actually choosing to stay in this matchup, which is really good because we win this in all shields with Giratina. So I don't have to invest any shields and I'll still come out of this match with switch advantage. And we get pretty much the biggest threat to Lapras out of the way, or at least one of the biggest threats. So pretty comfortable here. You could see I'm not shielding anything, trying to make the opponent think that they could probably win this in the 0 shields. And as you can see, this Dragon Claw is going to KO the Poliwrath, so it's going to force them to shield or let it go down. They do shield. They can't Mud Shot down, so I actually decide not to click the charge move. Shield up, so we're even on shields, and then farm down with Shadow Claw. Have some moves ready for whatever comes in next. And it's actually going to be a Venusaur here, so I'm going to throw the Ancient Power here. I just clicked this blindly, of course. Dragon Claw is going to be better in this situation, but I was just throwing blindly. You can see we do get the boost there. So you always get the boost when you don't really need it. But we have a Escavalier here, which is pretty much a complete wall to this Venusaur, especially Shadow Venusaur. Going to be taking a lot of damage here from the drill runs. So Friends Plan not doing too much. Drill run is definitely going to knock out Venusaur here. So let's see if the opponent wants to shield. Venusaur, of course, going to have a very good match against Lapras. They do. And I'm actually not going to throw expecting the switch. So I'm going to let this go through. You don't have to shield anything here with the Escavalier, of course. And I'm not going to throw the drill run right away, expect them to try and sack. I overfarm, they time it perfectly, catch this drill run. So not optimal, however, I should be able to get to this Mega Horn before they get to a move. It will be CMP tie though, so Mega Horn is going to come through here. And this is going to do a lot of damage. At this point, I'm going to swap out into my Lapras. Even if it is CMP tie, I'm not going to shield here because keeping this shield for the Lapras is a guaranteed victory. I just need to throw a Surf at this Cresselia and then basically farm down the Venusaur with Ice Shard and a shield. So Surf's going to knock out the Cresselia here. Venusaur is going to come back in. It's very low in health, and we could just farm down, shield up the Frenzy Plant, and Ice Shard is going to be enough to take out the Venusaur and take this game. So we're off to a 2-0 start here in this second set, and I'm really liking the team thus far. So hopping into the next matchup here, we got tomomhr. I believe this is one of the matchups which I really misplayed, but we'll see. We got Lapras into Cresselia, so this is an interesting matchup. I swap out into Giratina, and the thing is, when you swap out into Giratina with Ancient Power here, you're not expecting them to stay in. You're hoping they swap out, because when they stay in this matchup, I'm kind of in a tough spot. So I'm over farming here, hoping that they will start investing shields, thinking I have Shadow Sneak. They don't, so this is not looking too good. I'm going to have to eat one of these Moonblasts. What I'm hoping here is that I could at least get a shield from this Cresselia and lose switch, or I win switch without having to burn both my shields and getting 0 of theirs. So I go for another Dragon Claw here. Kind of surprised they're not shielding anything, but thankfully we do get to this next Dragon Claw before they get to their move. So this is going to force a shield or a win switch. Thankfully at this point, because we got that shield, I'm okay now with shielding this one and farming down completely with Shadow Claw. So we do have a shielded, we are down a shield, and a Poliwrath comes in. not what I wanted to see, of course, and it's starting to make me think that the backline might be weak to Giratina entirely, so maybe swapping out into Giratina as a safe switch there ended up costing me more than it did benefit me. I managed to win switch, but I keep this Poliwrath away from Lapras. Problem is, it still has a good match against Escavalier. From what I've seen, Poliwrath isn't too common in general, so it's not the worst thing to have a team that's weak to Poliwrath because you really don't see it too often. I think that's one of the most important things when building teams. Try to build around things that you don't see very often. So make your team weak to things you don't see very often, I should say. I decided to keep my Escavalier alive there because I was starting to think he may be weak to Steel in the back. So I decided to swap out to Lapras, take that Dynamic Punch and throw the Surf here, which they are going to let go through. They're saving the shield. Happens to be a Swampert, so you could see I could have been in a pretty decent spot if I didn't swap out into the Giratina, but this would have been a pretty tough matchup regardless. Not really too much I could do here. It's one of those cases where having Ancient Power actually does hurt you. So, you know, I think this team could definitely work with Shadow Sneak, but I just wanted to put out Ancient Power there because, you know, a lot of people have been asking about Ancient Power in the comments and wanted to showcase it in a team where I thought it somewhat fit pretty well. And the results have been pretty good so far, so I do think the team works pretty well running Ancient Power on Giratina here. But we do end up losing that matchup, so 2-1 in this set. We got kentaaarooouuu in the next matchup. And we're going to be leading Lapras into Umbreon. So this is a good matchup for Lapras in the 1 and 2 shields. Going to lose in the 0 shields, but totally fine with that. Can't really swap out here. The main thing about staying in with Lapras with this team is that if they end up having something in the back, like a Giratina for example, you kind of want that Lapras alive. Like you still have Giratina for the mirror match, but you prefer having some that wins really hard, or like Togekiss for example, right? Both these Pokemon on the back do really bad against Togekiss, so that's kind of why you need Ancient Power in case you have to stay in with Lapras here. That's where having Ancient Power kind of makes sense because it does hit the stuff like Togekiss or Articuno a bit harder still, so provides some nice coverage. But yeah, it's pretty difficult running this team and losing Lapras in the start, so I'm going to go for the Surf here. At this point, I actually think I want to keep switch advantage instead of the shield advantage. Because I let the opponent get in a couple of snarls there, I'm actually not able to farm down, which means I have to go down 2 shields here. And we do keep switch advantage while we're down a shield. I'm going to throw an Ice Beam at this Cresselia, and thankfully for us, I'm going to be able to align Cresselia onto the Escavalier now, so even down a shield, this is a very good matchup. And you may have noticed previously, I was running Acid Spray on the Escavalier. I decided this team probably will perform better with Mega Horn over Acid Spray just because not having Shadow Sneak for Cresselia and Lapras performing very badly against Cresselia kind of makes Mega Horn a bit necessary, I feel. So Moonblast comes through here. You can see Escavalier has an absolute amazing matchup here. Just going to go straight for the Mega Horn, trying to nuke this thing once and for all. Hopefully they don't shield, and they do not. So Cresselia goes down. We see Swampert come in. I'm going to throw the Drill Run here, which will probably get the shield. And then hopefully they throw the Hydro Cannon immediately so that they don't get any residual energy on the Swampert, which it looks like they did. And now Giratina is going to come back in. This is not an optimal matchup in the 0 shields. However, because I got a bit of counter damage off there, I think this is a winnable position for the Giratina. So we're going to have to get an Earthquake here. And now the question is, can we get rid of this Swampert before the second Earthquake comes through? I have 2 Dragon Claws ready, and I'm hoping that these 2 Dragon Claws plus a couple of Shadow Claws will be enough before the Swampert gets to the next Earthquake. I let the extra Mud Shot go in there, which is really bad for me. And I believe we just farmed down at the same time against the Earthquake, so GG's. End up taking that win, and we're 3-1. Can we pull off another 4-1 here in the final matchup going against BL Bonds 25? Leading Lapras once again into Obstagoon. One of the worst leads you could see, of course. And you could actually win this in the 0 shields, but it does require landing an Ice Beam. So I think going for the Surf, probably a mistake, because I don't expect the shield the first time. Probably makes more sense to just go straight for Ice Beam. And of course, this is assuming they don't have Cross Chop. If they have Cross Chop, then you can't really win this match at all with Lapras. But if they're running only Night Slash with, say, Hyper Beam or Gunk Shot, there is a possibility for Lapras here. As long as they don't get the boost on the Night Slash, you could win this. We do get the shield there. Now, I know I could survive this next Night Slash, so I'm actually going to choose not to shield here. And this is going to allow me to get the Surf. The problem is Surf actually isn't enough to KO the Obstagoon here. So I'm going to end up losing this matchup, giving up Switch, maintaining the shield, maintaining one shield apiece basically. But as you can see here, Giratina onto Escavalier, Cresselia onto Giratina without Shadow Sneak. My only chance to win this game is fishing for the boost. That's even if I get the boost, it depends how early I get it. If I got it right there, I think I can win this game. So I decided to shield the Moonblast, knowing that that's the one that's going to do the most damage. If I do end up getting the boost, still fishing for it. It's the only opportunity we have to win this game. After this Moonblast, even if we do get the boost, I think we might be too low in health at this point to take out their own Giratina. So even if we got it now, it might be meaningless. But as you can see, we're not getting it. This Moonblast is going to KO. Gonna end up losing this match. And we end up going 3-2 in this set. But overall, I had a lot of positive sets after these two with this team. And I think it performs really well. So those were the battles with this new team I'm testing out for the Open Ultra League, featuring Ancient Power Giratina. Now, is this team as effective as Double Ice? Probably not. However, it does show a lot of signs of potential, I feel. And I think Escavalier, a lot of people are afraid to use it because of Talonflame. As you can see, Lapras Giratina is a pretty nice balance to add to it. Good coverage for Talonflame, and I think it performs really well. If you guys enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like, commenting, subscribing to the channel. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.